a student gets on the stage and gets their diploma and everyone claps. When CC Tiger Hockey makes a score and the audience goes wild. It's when a figure skater makes that jump and you hear that shoo. It's when the lights go down, the audience gets quiet, the artist takes the stage, and there's a major applause. Those are the things that I think make it possible every day.
For me, the Broadmoor World Arena goes back to when it was located on the campus of the Broadmoor Hotel. In its original configuration, it was an old riding stable, and it had been converted with outside buttresses to make it safe. But eventually, the fire code was probably the greatest factor in abandoning the World Arena, and ultimately the hotel tore it down.
We as a community had just completed and built the Colorado Springs Airport, and that in itself was a challenge because there were a lot of skeptics who said, we don't need a bigger airport. Those same types of persons came to the forefront and said, we don't need a big arena. We don't need anything bigger than the Pikes Peak Center. And if we build it, the city's going to be obligated to finance it and make good on its debt, and we'll never be able to fill 7,000 seats. And so there was a tremendous outcry of opposition. Letters to the editor, letters to the volunteer group from the World Arena, but there were a multitude of skeptics.
I remember that time as being so difficult because clearly there wasn't any enthusiasm about it, and they were all tired of seeing us coming back and back and back. And so I think it was sort of preordained that it would fail. But in the meantime, we had identified terrific leadership.
So we had weekly meetings, and as a result, as history will evolve, different committees were formed for site location, design location, contractor selection, architectural selection, and as a result, all of that arena was designed by volunteers and citizen input.
From past experience, it seemed like there was always a feud between the business community and what I'd call the homeowners side of the community as to whether this should be an arena or a convention center. And I think that dispute in large part led to the defeat of these past issues at the polls. And so we pushed that the project should be the arena, the people's building.
I went to Dave Palanchar of El Pomar Foundation, and I said to him at that time, in my capacity as the executive director of USA Hockey, I said, Dave, do you think if we were willing to move our headquarters down here and build a new national headquarters building that maybe we could get a piece of land donated to us?
And one day he called me up and said, David, we're going to tear down the World Arena. I got to have a new home. What can you do for me? It's just about like that. And I said, well, let me think about it.
And they had this 53, I think it was 53 acres at a price of $4.1 million. And they would sell that to us for a reduced amount if we could convince the city and the county to do some of this infrastructure work. It was a meeting that was held between El Pomar people and the city of Colorado Springs, primarily the mayor and the city manager. And El Pomar had indicated they were willing to make a sizable contribution in the area of $16 million, but they wanted the city and county on board also.
I'm, an advertising guy, and we started off looking at the objectives and the strategies to get there. And, a big part of that was just making known to the community of what was going on and trying to do that in this positive way. And of course, we had a large body of people that wanted to go out and make this happen. And gosh, we had, the big institutions behind us. You have the Broadmoor, you have Colorado College. I mean, Colorado College donated $1 million to this project.
The city finally got on board, but we finally got it passed on a 7-2 vote. And they elected to do about $6 million worth of infrastructure.
We moved about 6 or 7 truckloads of dirt that was underneath the skating club, the Broadmoor Skating Club, to keep the history, the linkage. Isn't that neat? See, that's the kind of thinking that went into the development.
It was a community-wide effort, and the coalition that was able to build the arena did it without taxpayer dollars, and I think those are the two things that are most important.
The other thing that occurred was Colorado had a enterprise zone at that time. So basically what it did is it allowed people to divert what they were paying to their state income taxes to this project.
It was at the time the largest fundraising project in southern Colorado.
Once El Pomar Foundation was in, they had the inside to attract the other foundations in Denver. So we were at the point where we needed that last 15 or 16 million dollars.
And I told Dave, I said, you know, if we are going to do something and El Pomar is going to make a commitment, it has to be something that's really going to make a difference.
Dave Pallinger called me up and he was kind of laughing, and he said, well, I want you to know we got the money, but it's not a loan, it's another grant. And of course that, you know, blew us apart and put us over the top, and immediately started finishing up the design.
El Pomar ended up putting $32 million into the World Arena, and it's really, for a single project, the largest we've ever done.
I think the most exciting thing about the project was watching the community come together. The longer we continued and the more persistent we became, and the more we kind of stuck our necks out, the naysayers seemed to fall more to the wayside. And you know, there's that old saying, nothing succeeds like success. And you know, the successes that we had in fundraising, the successes in putting the plan together, in finding the location where we would actually build the arena, all of those things, it just created momentum that started to get people very, very excited. If you've ever been to the arena, one of our fundraising efforts was to sell tiles made by the Van Briggle tile company here in town with names or inscriptions, and I think there are about 7,000 of them or so in the building.
What's neat about the Van Briggle tiles was Van Briggle, I think, is the second longest existing company in Colorado Springs, so it's got great history.
And one of our board members, Tom Faljean, who was one of the initial leaders of this effort, volunteered to set every one of those tiles himself. And so if you walk the concourse of the arena and see all those tiles around the concourse, that was Tom Faljean who did every one of them, and he said his back has never forgiven him for doing that.
And in the beginning, you know, as volunteer citizens, they said, well, we don't know how to run an arena. And so for the first 3 years, a professional management firm was hired to do just that. So the foundation was begun intelligently, and as the end of the third year came about, the members of the board of directors said, well, I think we can do this ourselves, and we hired the lady who had come in with the beginning of the professional management, Dot Litchik, and she has been absolutely phenomenal.
Her experience in that area really gave us that strength that we needed to work with, okay? And then it worked so well that the county said, please, please, take the Pikes Peak Center.
Was a quote from Peter Sousmill. And Pete Sousmill said to the public media We don't want to see our children have to drive to Denver for special events. And we want to bring something to our own community to keep our own children within our city limits. And that truth was forthcoming when we opened that World Arena and we began to see the young people patronizing the special events that came on a regular basis. Without the support of El Pomar and their trust and their financial commitments, it'd be a big question mark about would the World Arena have ever evolved.
As a trustee of El Pomar, I was proud to support the very first grant that El Pomar made to create the first 2 ice sheets, which are adjacent to the current World Arena in 1994.
And the sheets of ice are, one's an Olympic size arena and one's, it's called a NHL size. And you, as a skater, you come across both when you compete. Some competitions are the a little bit smaller size and some would be the massive size. So that's very helpful to be able to train on both.
You have to remember at that time, 1993, 94, 95, there was not a great deal of infrastructure in that south parcel of land. And so when the World Arena broke ground with the ice halls followed by the World Arena itself, hotels followed suit. Restaurants followed suit.
If you take about the whole entertainment concept, high school, college, Olympian hopefuls, professionals, the Globetrotters in there, sports. Our community would have never seen that up close and personal.
And the World Arena was the nucleus for that to occur.
In the beginning, a promise was made to give back and to serve this community.
We have what is called the Colorado Springs World Arena Youth and Community Fund. And with that fund, over the past 20 years, we've given out over $1 million.
And we have served hundreds of nonprofits in this community, as well as provide complimentary tickets to disadvantaged groups to attend all of these sporting and cultural activities.
It is economic vitality, it's economic impact, it's community service. It is truly one of those icons, and I hope part of the legacy be that what can you do in a small community of 600,000 people is to have some facility that serves the community as well as drive the economic impact in southeast El Paso County.
And this has all been done with zero administrative costs, because the volunteers have served on the committee and we've never had anybody paid to do anything. It's always been through the volunteer process.
There's no day that is not busy, crazy, or exciting. It's staying up with the times and figuring out how do we get there? How do we stay relevant in the community? How do we keep doing what we're doing the right way?
It's just inconceivable to me that we can turn that sheet of ice into a big ballroom and have 700 or 800 people in there. That just blows my mind.
I think it should be remembered as the premier, unique, and exciting multi-purpose facility for sport and entertainment in the Pikes Peak region.
Broadmoor World Arena is the best. Ice Hall is the best. It's an Olympic training site. Pikes Peak Center couldn't be better. Buy a ticket. Keep us going.